Welcome to episode 4 of Methanol Madness presented by Ruapuna Speedway. On tonight's episode we've got plenty of highlights to cover from our carnival fireworks night and another great meeting for our ranch bar and grill preview coming up this weekend. AJ, how much fun was carnival night? It was great to see the speedway so full of families and everybody really loved the extra entertainment that we had trackside.
Yeah, one of the things about carnival night is the attractions create the atmosphere, the vibe and all that. It just seems to rub off on the competitors as well, and everyone just had a wonderful night, didn't they? There was real buzz about the place, good crowd, really good numbers up against a massive event in the middle of the city, and it was a brilliant night's entertainment and a brilliant night's racing.
One of my favourite carnival nights to date so far. To get the show started tonight, we're going to take a look at the Concut Crash of the week. This one tonight involving Brett Booth and Jaden Fitzgibbon was in Heat 1 of the modified sprints. So we have here, we can see Josh Lilly just slowing off the start of this heat race with Jaden Fitzgibbon and Brett Booth getting involved there right on that pit straight wall, AJ. Pretty big tumble there for Jaden.
It was, and right from the get-go, when Josh Lilly's car failed to respond to the throttle, you could just see it was that concertina effect, and it went right back through the field, and she's bunched up, isn't it? And something had to give, and unfortunately, we had Boothie and Jaden Fitzgibbon really getting knotted up.
Yeah, a bit of a shame for them as well, especially with how close the racing is with the modified sprints at the moment. There was lots of action happening throughout the carnival fireworks night, which we'll give you a rundown of now with the Ruapuna Speedway review of the week. Starting with the quarter midgets who showed up in full force for round 2 of the Mike Greer Holmes Nelson series. There were strong performances from Ryan Gallagher and Jackson Clark in the heat races, picking up a win each, and some great battles happening throughout the large field. A yellow during the feature looked to give Jackson Clark a chance to take the lead off of Aucklander Lucas Smith, but Lucas was able to keep the 54 at bay and pick up his first Ruapuna feature win. Feature results for them there was first Lucas Smith, second Jackson Clark, and third Ryan Gallagher. AJ, isn't it great to see the support from Stadium Finance supporting Ryan's quarter midget career as well as being long-time supporters of Ruapuna?
They're brilliant backers of motorsport in general, and it actually tells you a whole lot. They see some talent there, and they also see some return that they get from Speedway people as well. So it's a win-win right across the board, and Stadium Finance are just wonderful people to deal with.
In the modified sprints, after a few restarts in Heat 1, it was Harry McIntyre making the most of it, going on to pick up that win. Unfortunately, the rest of his night not quite going to plan, having to retire in the second heat. Jaden Fraser held a large lead over the field in Heat 2 with the double threat of Avon Insurance cars in behind him. It was then the all-dominant Liam Astle once again claiming feature victory, but this time Jaden Fraser was in close pursuit, coming home in second place. And third place for Neil Carey, AJ, a great result for the 32 out of the Avon Insurance stables.
Neil just gets better with every race, doesn't he? And he showed that he's ready to mix it with them. You do sense that everyone's chasing Astle right now. But Jaden Fraser, he is the guy that will really keep Liam Astle very honest on the racetrack.
Then in the TQ class, there were almost 30 of them in attendance for round 2 of the TQ Tri Series. AJ, after 2 weeks in a row of him being involved in our crash of the week, we finally get to talk about Blake Finlay picking up his first heat win. Yeah,
what a confidence booster it was, and for a couple of times this year, wrong place, wrong time, and we really hadn't seen the best of Blake, but that won't be the only victory he gets this season. It was a damn good one, and he just drove such a good race to notch that one in the belt, so all power to him.
A great wee family team too, with his father Aaron also in the TQ class. The North Island appearances did not disappoint either, with Caden Barker picking up another heat win and the feature race as well, with Aaron Humble in second place. And after a night plagued with many issues coming through the B main, it was Jeremy Webb driving from 20th to 3rd. And what a recovery for the 1NZ, AJ.
Yeah, it showed the undoubted ability that we know that Jeremy Webb has got. And I do sense that as the season has gone on, Jeremy has learned a whole lot more about Aaron Humble and Caden Barker than they will have learned about him. They are progressing, and he is going to be awfully tough to beat at that New Zealand Championship.
Well, we thought it would be an opportune time to catch up with the 5-time New Zealand TQ champion himself, next up on Methanol Madness. Welcome to the show, Jeremy. Nice to have you. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me. Us.
Yeah, we've got Emmy joining us as well.
Yep.
I'm sure that, like most other competitors at the moment, your focus is probably looking ahead to the Melrose Motorsport New Zealand TQ Championship coming up in January. So we're going to jump straight into the TQ stuff first. You've done something this year that some people probably would shy away from doing by changing up your TQ package and switching into the Viper chassis. What kind of inspired you, I suppose, to make that change, and how's it going for you so far?
It's a hard one, really. To making the change, I drove a car I was lucky enough to drive for Chris Lane in Auckland. Really like that car. It never ran properly, but we still won races up north, which is hard to do. So really like that car, and sort of won races in that car, and races I thought I wouldn't have won in my own car. Mm-hmm. So I got a great opportunity from Danny and Warwick, who have been really awesome with this whole build, that I couldn't really turn down. So we decided to put our own car together, and customise it a little bit to make it our own, and here we are. It hasn't gone great. It ended up in the fence on like after 3 laps or something, but we worked through that, found what caused that, and we've made adjustments from there, and we won a couple of races, and now we've gone backwards a little bit, and I feel like we were going to be really good last week, 2 weeks ago, but unfortunately the wiring loom didn't want to play the game, so we had to do it the hard way, but I think we're starting to get there with the car now.
What kind of adjustments do you feel like you've had to make with your driving style to kind of make the change work?
I don't know. I don't know. There's definitely more room in the car, which suits me because I've got ultra long legs, so I fit in the car better, and the seats lower and the seats further back, whereas I couldn't get it with the other car like that. So it's a little bit different to drive in that respect, as well as the handling of the car as well. So there's definitely been a couple of little challenges, and the changes that we make with the car is different to the old car. Yeah. It seems to, the window seems to be a bit smaller with the new car, but when we're in the window it seems to be better.
Yeah. So you've had some success and obviously a little bit of trouble as well, have you just spoken about, but there's not too many meetings left before the TQ title kicks off on January 24th. Is there any kind of feelings that you're feeling comfortable enough in the car that you think it's kind of title winning worthy? I
think it's definitely good enough to win the title. The car is still the best of the best gear and everything. It's, again, the title's a whole new season in itself, really. It's we start again, and everyone's, the fastest guy or the favourite guy might be no good. Yeah. So I'm not too worried about how everything's gone. I just think we need to get ourselves into the window that we're just about in, and I seem to up my game at the title anyway, so hopefully we get the car right, even if I'm not quite there. I think when the title's here, we'll be, if we finish all 5 heats anyway, we'll be near the front. The name of the game is just to make it to the last race, really. But so you've won 5 of these New Zealand titles, and you've only won 2 of them at the same track, being Nelson. But what is some of the highlights that you've had from winning those titles? What's your most memorable one for you as a driver? I think I could probably sit here for an hour and talk about them all, because they're all super special in lots of different ways. It goes from, the first one is obviously awesome. The first one came at Nelson, where I grew up. See you later. And then obviously the second one was back to back, which was cool, and that was here at Ruapuna. And then the third one was no one had ever done 3 in a row, so that was a big aim to do, which we got, and I think that one is probably my most memorable one. It was at the Springs. Not many people from the South Island can win at the Springs, let alone a title. So also the way we did it, I think we fell back to 12th and passed 10 cars until the last lap, where we passed Ryan on the final lap, with no muffler. So the way that played out, there were protests and no one wanted me to win. the tyre was on the canvas. It was just, you couldn't have scripted it any better, I don't think. So that's definitely my most memorable one. And then obviously Greymouth was 4 in a row. So that's special as well. That tied me with Alan Wakeling and Kerry Jones, and who was the other one? Can't remember who the other one was now. There was 3 of them. Michael Kendall, maybe?
Yeah.
I think it was Michael Kendall. So that was really cool. And then Nelson again was, I don't know, I guess that was the 5th one, but that was, I don't know how to explain that one really.
So earlier this year, you kind of ventured into a new business alongside Tyler Warnock, who many listeners or viewers will know as well from racing at Ruapuna. But you launched Clear Track Solutions, which is a New Zealand-based laminated tear-off system, if I'm correct in saying that. How was it been kind of stepping into the business side of the motorsport industry for you guys?
It's actually been really cool because I have my own business that pays for all this racing, and I don't really enjoy it. It's not the best or funnest job to do. So to do something that I enjoy and try and make a little bit of money out of is really enjoyable. And from what I've experienced, everyone really likes them, and they're going really good. I like them. I kind of designed them, so you'd hope that I like them. But we're really enjoying that. The feedback from everyone's been awesome. We're still trying to make them better. So I'm actually running some new tear-offs at the moment with a perimeter seal on them, which I really like. So we will look into that and bring them in at some point, and just there was a couple of times where I tried to get tear-offs and couldn't get them in New Zealand, and had to run the cheap non-laminated tear-offs that I absolutely hated. Couldn't pull them off, they were dark, just hated them. So we went with this idea, and Tyler's put a lot of the work in, and I haven't had the time to do it, so it's a huge credit to him for what he's done. So that's how that's going.
Nice. Very interesting that if you can't kind of buy them, you go out and make them yourself and make it work. So I'm sure that that's a good thing that you guys have got going, and the promotion and the marketing and everything seems to be paying off as well. So give them a little plug. Where can people buy them? And I'm sure that they're in a few race shops around the town as well. Yeah,
we're very lucky. There's been a lot of people support them, and they are in a lot of shops around New Zealand, mainly in the North Island. We're not really in the South Island so much, but people can buy them from our website, and I will send them out that day, or I'll bring them to Ruapuna or wherever I'm going to. So that's quite simple really. You just buy them online, and then they'll just rock up at your door or wherever your address is. And we've obviously modified them as well to make them easier to use. I personally used to struggle with pulling them off. I could never grab them, so I'd usually try pull the hole in the middle, and then when they were ripped, they'd never work. So it was a pain in the ass. I used to have to stack them on both sides because that would happen, and I would have to go to the other side. Whereas now I just go to the one side because there hasn't been a problem yet. So
awesome.
They're great.
So you've also dabbled in a bit of midget racing on the side as well, with the TQ obviously being kind of your main lot of success there as well. But going back to 2020, you raced in the Chili Bowl in Tulsa, Oklahoma for Clausen Marshall Racing. How did that opportunity come about for you?
Well, that was through the Tony Elliott Foundation. So Cindy Elliott runs that, and without her, we wouldn't have been there. We just had to get there really, and they covered everything. So a huge thanks to them for that opportunity. And obviously that was all kickstarted by Bryce, who everyone is racing for at Auckland this weekend. Unfortunately not us, but he was a massive part of that as well. That's how that all came about.
What was that experience like for you? For those that don't know, the Chili Bowl is the largest indoor midget race in America, happening in January every year with over 300 competitors. And for you, making it up to that C main kind of puts you in that top 60 or so cars, and that was a massive achievement for you, I'm sure.
It was, and it wasn't. We went there to do better than that, and I think we could have. Obviously, with such a good team, I was involved with all the cars every night, and on the Monday night, Tyler Courtney ran, and he was a great help to me. He explained everything that he was doing, and basically what I did was I copied what he did. And you could see it on Monday night. He just cruised. and he just took his time, and he was running third or fourth or something, just cruising, and then he just took off and ran second and challenged for the lead, and that's kind of what I was doing, just sort of 85%, and then the guy took me out. And I always look back on that and I think, maybe if I had run my own race and pushed hard, I would have been that car or two further ahead, and he wouldn't have taken me out when the yellow light was on. So that's hard. We pushed the Nerf bar into the left rear tyre. Tyre didn't go down, but it had a bald spot right through the centre, and it was all front end was bent up, and we went back to 15th. I don't know, to the back or whatever, and finished 15th. So we were running 5th at the time, and potentially we lost 10 spots, which is 50 spots over 5 nights.
Wow.
So when you look at it like that, it's frustrating, but that's just the way that it goes.
So being paired up with Clausen Marshall Racing and having teammates like Tyler Courtney and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. at the time, as well as a NASCAR Cup driver, you had kind of all of these really experienced guys at the Chili Bowl, and then obviously yourself having experience here in New Zealand. But what were some of the learnings from that you were able to bring back to New Zealand, and how did working alongside those guys really kind of shape your thoughts into how you work on your own program?
They definitely did things a little bit different to us. We took a lot of things out of it, just in the way that they do things and look at things, and it just changed my perspective a little bit on the way I look at some things. Didn't really learn anything in the way of what we're doing wrong, but just the way they do things was more efficient, and things like that. So made me realise we need a full-time crew as well. But we don't. No.
So also in January of last year, you raced for HLR up at Western Springs in the Pickens 54, going on to win the event. I know that it was a bit of a last-ditch effort putting that car together for you to run that night, but did you have any expectations? You'd been out of the midget seat for some time before that event, and heading back into it with a car you'd never driven before, what was that like, and did you have any expectations for that night?
Not really. I was up there racing Chris Lane's TQ that night, and I ran into Jeff, and we were talking, and I jokingly asked him if he had a spare car, and he laughed and said, come to the workshop tomorrow. And so we did that, and there was a car there, and needed a lot of work done on it, and me and my buddy Nick, we worked late most nights to get it there, and we were close, but we were still the last car to the track, and we rolled in the gate at driver's briefing. It was real last minute, but wouldn't change anything about the way that night played out either.
So you were racing up there in the TQ, obviously, but it was the International Midget Series, and I know that a lot of guys have a goal of, let alone winning a feature at Western Springs, but during the International Midget Series, when there's such a spotlight on it, I know that was a pretty big achievement for you to pick up that win as well. Yeah,
I think I'd always aimed to get on the podium. I thought, how cool would it be to stand on a podium with the Americans? And the first feature I actually qualified for was at Bay Park, and we ran 4th, and I was so gutted, but we were pretty happy at the same time. And then again, I did run 4th another time after that, and I thought it's just never going to happen. But I guess the way that format was, we hadn't ran all year. We were in an unfamiliar car that hadn't even been on the track. No one really picked us to start near the back, and we started on the second row. Which was fantastic. I definitely wasn't complaining about that.
So you've had all this experience in the North Island and the South Island as well, but as well as overseas in America. So with that, how do you think that's shaped your racing or your driving style as a whole, between your own midget program that you've been running for a number of years? You've won 3 South Island titles in the midget class, as well as numerous in the TQ. So you've kind of had to adapt your driving style throughout all these years of racing different competitors and different tracks and things like that. How do you think you would describe your racing style?
I feel like I haven't improved in the last 3 years, which is really frustrating. And that's just a case of probably me making the wrong decisions with things and things like that. The old man retiring from work and not paying the bills hasn't helped. I don't know. It's a hard one, but I mean, I feel like I haven't gotten any better. Do you think that for a few different reasons? As part of that, with like all these new guys that are coming through, obviously like the class is a lot younger at the moment, being a feeder class as well. Yeah, so I certainly think I haven't gotten any worse. I haven't improved so much. I think it's a lot more competitive out there. There seems to be more guys that have got more money and they're building better cars. The drivers are getting younger, or I'm getting older, one of them. Yeah, I don't know. Everyone just seems to be getting faster.
Yeah.
Even in Christchurch, I feel like I've dominated the TQs in the South Island for a long time, and I can see it changing this year. Maybe not right now, but towards the end of the year with these young guys coming through. You know, they go to school. I think their parents probably pay the bills. They go to school for 5 or 6 hours a day instead of working 12 hours a day like me and a lot of other people. And they play iRacing all night. So those guys are coming through now, and I think they're going to be pretty hard to beat.
So not only have you won 5 New Zealand titles, but you've got the most Speedway New Zealand titles of all time at 22 across the midget and the TQ, obviously including North and South Island titles, Grand Prix, and of course New Zealand ones as well. But that technically on the list puts you one ahead of Michael Pickens at the moment, who everyone often refers to as the GOAT of Speedway. How does that ever sink into you that you've got all these wins kind of stacked against your name there?
I mean, it's cool to have more than Michael, but you can't really compare 10 South Island TQ titles to 10 New Zealand midget titles. It's it's hard. The numbers are there, and that's really cool, but I guess I'll just keep pushing and try and stay ahead of those guys. Yeah.
So with all of the success that you've had in the TQ and the midget as well, obviously working a full-time job, you're a father, and you've got all of this stuff kind of going on behind the scenes as well that keeps you working hard. What is it that motivates you as a driver to want to keep coming back and keep aiming to win all these races?
I'm not going to lie, it is winning. I don't go out there to make friends. We are there to win as much as we can. So. That's the way I've always treated it. It's bloody expensive, and it takes a lot of time. So I kind of put the most that I can into getting the best results. So winning for sure.
So with that in mind, is there a goal or a number that you have that once you reach that, whether it be 10 New Zealand TQ championships or anything of the likes, that once you reach that you can step away and be proud of what you've achieved? Or do you think you keep going until the bills stop being paid, or until you can't do it anymore? Or how does that look for you and your future of dirt racing?
I don't really know. I feel like I could step away now and be pretty happy with what I've done. So one of my buddies rang me up the other month and said I need to buy the Speedway magazine, which I did, and I was number 1 in the TQs, which I did not expect. So that was quite cool. So I don't know. I'm quite happy with that. I'd love to do more in the midget, and I feel like I was getting close to the top, and then some stuff didn't really go our way, and that's what I mean. We haven't really improved or done anything for the last 3 years. Other than the MP54 race, so that has been quite hard.
Well, thanks for your time, Jeremy. It's been great to have you here with us tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed listening in there with Jeremy Webb talking about his TQ and midget career and what's coming up for him for the rest of the season as well. If you want to be there to witness Jeremy Webb try for his 6th New Zealand TQ title, tickets are on sale now at ruapunaspeedway.co.nz for the 24th and 25th of January. Getting back into our review of the week, it was Andrew Gregg with the most successful night in the Wingless sprints, picking up Heat 1 and the feature race as well, which always provides a bit of a laugh in victory lane. A little slip up by Kirk Hawkins whilst running second gave Corey Duckmanton a good look at Gregg, but unable to close in enough to make a pass. Another podium finish for the Big Duck and Kirk Hawkins making up that 3rd position. A smaller field of them, AJ, but when it comes down to it, the Wingless really know how to put on a show.
It was very competitive, wasn't it? And, but just for a few more cars, they would really be a bit of a scene setter. The Big Duck, boy, he will be so happy because, he admits he's still learning the ropes and that. Andrew Gregg, he's tough as old goat's knees. Once he gets a chance, he's very hard to hunt down. And here's old Shooter Hawkins, close but no cigar again.
And the sprint cars were straight back into it as well, with another round of the Dalton's Sprint Car Summer Slam, with Steve Duff Jr. picking up that win, which was certainly popular with the local crowd. AJ, how good was it to see a Duff back in victory lane?
It was brilliant. You know, Junior tends to race a lot in the shadows of Jamie, and he's an exceedingly capable driver and so on. And I actually got the feeling all night long that Steve was just starting to really get a handle on it. And, you know, you've got to be there at the end to get those feature wins. And, you know, other people through the years have benefited through Steve or Jamie having a little bit of a slip up or what have you, but you know, it does sort of square itself off in the end, and it was a big smile on Junior's face at the end of that one, plus a lot of the crowd. He's a very popular driver.
And a remarkable recovery as well after being in that crash just a couple of weeks beforehand as well. Rewinding the feature a little bit, an incident with a lapped car is what took Myers out of the lead, unfortunately leaving Connor Rangi with nowhere to go. Joel was able to restart and drive it back into second, but AJ, I don't think that this from the rear to the front kind of business is what the Daniel Anderson racing team want to make too much of a habit out of.
They won't want to. One of the team owners actually made a comment to me the other day. He does not think that the sprint car racing at Ruapuna has been so competitive ever. And this guy's been involved in sprint cars for an awful long time. One of the words he used was, you know, it's brutal out there. And, you know, there's not one driver who's not capable of getting into victory lane or onto a podium. It's tough going, and you know, guys like Joel Myers and Max Guilford, you've got to expect through the amount of racing that they do, you've got to expect them to be on the top of the cake. But boy, they're having to work for it, and I would dare say that Dan Anderson's heart's in his mouth a little when his chargers are having to race through from the back of the field.
And earlier in the night, it was great to see Shannara Stronach putting in some great laps in the first heat race against Jonathan Allard, who would go on to win the heat. Unfortunately, Allard was a non-starter in the feature due to motor issues, but it was great to see the Daltons team making the effort to be there. It was a pretty remarkable heat race there for Shannara, AJ.
It was, and I'm a big fan of Shannara's because, you know, they started coming to Ruapuna last season. And she admits, you know, for us to get better, we've got to race in this sort of competition. What I particularly enjoyed was the ovation of the crowd. You know, they knew that they'd seen something very special from this young lady, and there's nothing to it, but man, has she got a big right foot on her, and she gave it everything, and a lot of people were very pleased for Shannara and the team.
Feature results there for the sprint cars were, of course, first place Steve Duff Jr., second place Joel Myers Jr., and third place Matt Honeywell. A quick update on the Summer Slam points as well, with only one round remaining. Joel Myers Jr. currently leads on 140, Connor Rangi with 119, and Dylan Forsey currently third with 116 points. Now it is time to get into our giveaway segment of the show, starting with the share and win giveaway of 10 adult passes to tomorrow night's event. This week's 10 winners are Donna Jordan, Sarah Thompson, Terry Jemmett, Aaron Henry, Hayden Crocker, Lauren Needs, Mel Norris, David Sullivan, Kaylee Warnock, and Nicola McCormick. Congratulations to those 10. You've picked up a free single adult pass to tomorrow night's event. We also get to announce the lucky winner of the Melrose Motorsport New Zealand TQ Championship stream combo thanks to RJPTV. The most popular prediction, AJ, is still Jeremy Webb, but a few names in the mix there with Barker, Humble, Smith, the likes making an appearance in that comment section.
New Zealand TQ Championships, and I've been to a lot of them through the years, tend to be really one on one thing. And you know, they've got 5 heat races, and all they need is one just a little bit of luck or one bit of exceptional driving that's going to put them into contention. Likewise, they just have one little failure and they're chasing problems, and it will be a really tough championship. Whoever emerges out of that war zone to take out the New Zealand TQ Championship will be very satisfied with their night's work.
Yeah, we've seen how cutthroat the TQ racing is just at Ruapuna alone so far already this season. As Jeremy spoke about a little bit earlier, the name of the game is really just to survive your 5 heat races and things like that. So with the competition that we can expect, I'm sure it'll be a big weekend for those guys.
It will be, and Jeremy is so lucky. You know, his father, a multi-time New Zealand TQ champion, and the pit crew who have been been with him for an awful long time. There's some really wise heads in those corners. But Jeremy in the last couple of years appears to me just to have sort of calmed down a little bit and doesn't get quite so wound up about things. They know what they've got to do, and they also probably know that someone else's actions going into the first corner in the first heat, if they're starting from grid 12 or grid 13, someone behind them gets a little bit desperate. They also know that it could make it tough for them, so they'll just take everything that they need to that's put in front of them. If you were setting the TAB odds, I would think he'd be paying about $1.50.
So the winner of the live stream combo for the weekend that we speak of there is Eddie Franz. Congratulations, Eddie. The team will be in touch with you, ensuring that you get access to those streams for the Melrose Motorsport New Zealand TQ title. Next up, we have our Ranch Bar and Grill preview of the week. So tomorrow night, Saturday, December 14th, is the Shearing's Earth Moving Christmas Spectacular. And what a jam-packed meeting it's going to be. There's almost something on the line for every class tomorrow night, AJ.
Yeah, everything and everyone. Like you got the Hydrolink, more of the Wings had their first round at Ellesmere last weekend, and the feature race was shortened because of the conditions and so on. But Joel Myers, he's going to be awfully hard to knock off there. So looking forward to the first round of the City South Van Spears Super Midget Series. Remember how tightly contested that was last year. No Jack Lowe yet, but boy, there's plenty of contenders for that. So there's lots on.
There is indeed. Starting with taking a quick look at our quarter midget field, another large amount of those with sitting around that 20 mark, AJ, that we've seen for most of the season as well. But Jackson Clark and Ryan Gallagher proving to be the ones at the front.
Yeah, they're the pace setters, aren't they? And, some of these other kids are starting to close that gap very, very quickly on them.
We've also got 25 TQs registered for this weekend. Again, these numbers are going to keep increasing as we get a little bit closer to that championship. We've got Dylan McGregor making his way from the North Island. He picked up a feature win at Kiki over Regan Tyler just a couple of weeks ago, AJ. There's some really strong names competing this weekend in this class.
Yeah, big names, big event too. That will mean a whole lot to a lot of the local drivers. The Ryan Stone 17-lap tribute race. A lot of the drivers here have had their careers sort of shaped by Ryan's actions and friendship through the years, and 12 years on, it's still a bit of blow that we lost Ryan to cancer, but some of these guys, they just pull something extra out of the hat for that one. If the driver themselves didn't know them, then their father or one of the crew would have known Ryan Stone.
Yeah. Absolutely. A special tribute one there for 17 laps in honour of Ryan's number, as well as being fastest off the back. AJ always kind of provides some more excitement for the crowd. Yeah,
some movers and shakers are going to have to do some real hard yards, aren't they?
Indeed they are. We've also got the Wingless Sprints back in action again. Kirk Hawkins back on the entry list as well. Always good to put on a show.
Yeah. Like Shooter, he just gives it everything, doesn't he? But you suspect that there's a wee rivalry starting to build between Shooter and Andrew Gregg. A couple of old dogs out there, and they're looking back, and some of these young pups are starting to actually haul in some results. But Shooter Hawkins, I've known him for a long time, and he's not going to give up that easy.
It's also the first round of 3 for the Wingless Sprints Affordable Car Sales Battle of the Sixes, a new series being brought to Ruapuna with the 3 rounds, AJ, and also a fastest off the back format. Could be pretty interesting.
It will be. Again, it'll shape things up, won't it? And small field, but they've still got opportunities to put on some great racing.
Yeah, guys like Mark Morris and Corey Duckmanton really looking to capitalise on those and making their way up through the field tomorrow night, I'm sure. And as you spoke of earlier, we've got the first round of the City South Van Spears Midget Super Series coming up this weekend as well. Always great when the midgets can put together a great field, and they always put on a show, AJ.
Absolutely, they've got every chance of actually stealing the show on Saturday night. And the midget car racing, 11 cars, it's really good for Christchurch, and it's going to be tightly contested because the Southern Midget Brigade, they get together a lot, but the Super Series is actually starting to build some real credibility and some want from the drivers. They want the trophy, and it's going to be really good to see how they sort of how the dust settles on this one, because I don't think there's an outright favourite. Jay Chadwick has really impressed me this season. So Sam McCrenna, both those guys have had some great drives and so on, and they're not phased one little bit by the reputations of the others. And we've got Glenn Jury back, and Glenn, it'll be a special night for him. He was one of Ryan Stone's very best mates, and so Glenn, he makes no secret that part of his desire to race is remembering his old mate Ryan.
And we've also got Liam McCoubry in the entry list as well, who has been struggling a little bit over the last season also with some engine problems in the 12 car, but showed a lot of speed out at Ellesmere just last weekend as well, so I'm sure that he'll be up in the mix up against the likes of Ben Morgan and Jay Chadwick as well. Yeah,
I think Ben Morgan, he's again a bit of a dark horse. He went so well in those end of season events. He just seems to go and get the business done.
And we've also got, of course, the Hydrolink War of the Wings. The first round at Ellesmere last weekend, but our first round at Ruapuna. We've got 3 coming up this season, and they're always sure to put pums on seats in the crowd, and people love watching the War of the Wings come to town. So we've got plenty of sprint cars competing in this, AJ. Obviously, a South Island series really brings the attraction for these drivers.
Absolutely. The Hydrolink War of the Wings, it's paying out over $80,000 to the drivers and so on. And when you look at the super team that Dan Anderson has put together, there is a big gap in experience or laps that are put in by Max Guilford and Joel Myers. No Jamie Duff, unfortunately, this weekend. He's going to be up at Western Springs. But Connor Rangi, he put on a very good drive at Ellesmere at the weekend. So did Steve Duff Jr. in finishing third. But what I'm really liking about the sprint cars right now is the ability of these young guys who have just seemingly come from nowhere and go sprint car racing. Bailey Patterson at Ellesmere before his crash, he was just putting on a whale of a show, and he got up into 4th place, and Bailey brings some real credibility to his sprint cars from other forms of motorsport. He's raced in Formula 4, I think it was, up in the USA, and he's really just starting to put it together in sprint cars. He's a guy to keep an eye on. They got the big Mac from Invercargill, Jacob McIntyre coming up here to stir things up, and 18 cars, that's a good lineup.
It definitely is, and a couple of those names that we just mentioned in there as well. The return of Max Guilford after missing last meeting as well, but obviously Joel Myers Jr. probably the favourite going into this, but we can't forget guys like Steve Duff Jr. are still obviously on a high from picking up that win and looking to extend that streak maybe.
Yeah, he'll be looking really hard at it, but just remember what happened last year with the War of the Wings, the first round at Ruapuna, when you had Joel was pretty much dominating, just had a little bit of a mechanical issue, and Connor Rangi, who was actually starting to pull him in, he just leapt. He took the opportunity, and Dylan Forsey, this time last year, had done like 2 or 3 race meetings in a sprint car, and he brings a lot to the field.
He definitely does. Lots happening this weekend at the track. AJ, but it is the last meeting of our 2024 portion of the race season already. It's gone incredibly quick, but wrapping up the year with the War of the Wings is sure to get people involved at the track, as well as we've got the face painter coming back as well. So I know that the families really enjoyed that, but there's always lots to look out for at Ruapuna.
Yeah, it's going to be a really good night. Going to be warm, so slip, slop, slap, and put on the sun hat and so on. But it's just a great vibe around the speedway right now. The families are enjoying it. The racing is of a level right across the board that I don't think Ruapuna has seen consistently for a long time, and it's just a very good night out.
Shaping up to be another big weekend, but that marks the end of tonight's Methanol Madness episode as we gear up for tomorrow night's Shearing's Earth Moving Christmas Spectacular. Join us trackside at Ruapuna Speedway for the War of the Wings, the Midget Super Series, the Battle of the Sixes, and of course the Ryan Stone Memorial. That'll be Saturday, December 14th. Tickets are available online and at the gate, and remember that the only place to get your live stream is rjptv.co.nz. Methanol Madness will return to your screens in 2025 with our next episode airing on January 8th. Drive and race safe over the Christmas break, but until next time, keep your foot up it.